What's going on, guys? Mr. Josh here. Welcome to my first YouTube painting video. Today we're going to be painting a Space Marine as a Storm Warden. So I picked up this box of Space Marines. It contains 10 in the box. So we're going to paint up the first one. I'm going to be doing each one as a different chapter. So this one is going to be a Storm Warden. So we're going to open it up and have a look at the sprue. Alright, so opening it up, these guys are a lot smaller than I remember. This is the first box that I've recently got back into Warhammer with, and it's actually crazy the amount of detail on these things. So I'm just having a look at the different sprues now, working out what pieces to use. As you can see, I'm a little bit lost. Oh, we've got the transfers there. I'm a little bit lost on how to build these guys, so I'm just going to have a look at the instruction manual just to get a few ideas on positioning and stance and how I want the overall feel of the model to look. So we're going to cut the model up now. I've decided on a little bit of a stance for the legs. Cutting these things up. These pliers are bad. I have to get a new set of pliers. I think I actually get another set very soon. Alright, so we're going to start cleaning the mold lines. These ones aren't as bad as the ones when I used to collect years and years ago. I do think that these models are actually 2017. I'm just pulling out the thing now. Yeah, so 2017 is the date on these sprues. They're not too bad. I did collect Warhammer a decent 25 odd years ago, and they were a lot different. A lot more sprue mold lines in worse positions. So these actually aren't too bad. It's just got to get rid of the nub there and file it down and make it look pretty good. Okay, so we have assembly time now. I was actually really happy with how the torso lined up, and overall I was pretty happy with how all of the parts lined up and fit in perfectly with each other. I haven't done one of these Space Marines before, but as you can see, there's like a little keyhole part on the lower torso and the legs, so they just fit straight in. A little bit of plastic glue. Maybe I used a little bit too much, I don't know. I always end up using more than I need to. I end up wiping away too much, but they fit straight in. Once you wiggle the leg around, they fit perfectly in there. You just hold it for a few seconds and then bang. Set that aside and let it glue up. I repeat the rest of the process of gluing together the miniature off camera because I don't think anyone really wants to see that. That's not exactly a hard part. But here we are, the finished model all primed, looking very good. I went with the knife in the left hand and the right hand and the bolt tie in the left hand, just cradling it up. Okay, so let's start painting now. It's been a long time since I've painted. So Storm Wardens are blue in the middle torso, upper legs. Sometimes the knee pad is blue, and then the rim around the shoulder pad. So let's start painting him up now. I thinned down the paint a bit off camera, just a tiny bit so it flows. I don't know if that was enough. It's always best to go 2 thin coats rather than one big blob thick coat. So this is the first bit, as you can see, going down now. So I'm laying down the rest of the blue base coat. It looks a little bit blotchy and it's easy to get discouraged when this first layer of paint goes down, but as it dries it dulls down a little bit too, so it doesn't look as full on. So just kind of a bit messy. It's just the first bit. I just put it all over the bits that are blue. We can kind of fix up any over paint and over splashing as we do the other base coats. So don't worry too much if you're not 100% neat here. I think I'm actually probably not watering down the paint quite as much as I should do too, but that's okay. We'll fix up any heavy parts later on, and the wash will also tie them together and bring them a bit down later on as well. While I was waiting for the blue on the Space Marine to dry, I started painting the base coat, or the first layer of the dirt on the Space Marine's base. This is a Vallego model color Beige Brown. So this is just the first layer down, just to get a bit of a dark ground texture happening. And then later on I'll dry brush that to bring that up a bit too and give it a bit more texture as well. Just trying to paint the whole base. It doesn't matter if you get it on the legs, because as you know, the legs are going to change color anyway. So you don't have to be too sparingly. Even on the rim, it doesn't matter. We can paint over that too. Don't stress, and paint the whole entire sand as shown. Okay, so base is done now in the brown, and now we're going with the second layer of blue, which will just give it a bit more of a solid blue color, a little less patchy, a little less opaque. and you'll start to see the Space Marine take shape once you do this second layer. Okay, going with the second colour for the Storm Warden is Field Blue by Vallego. This is probably more of a dark grey. Maybe it has a tinge of blue in it. I don't know where it gets its name from, but we're using this as a base colour for the lighter grey that it will eventually be on this miniature. You can also see on the other leg I was going to do a metallic silver instead of the grey. A lot of the pictures I see use the metallic silver and a lot less use the grey, but I kind of like the way the grey was looking better, so I did switch it out instead. But I'll have to now cover up that other leg, which is fine, it goes on pretty good. I really like the way it's looking right now with the two base colours down. It's looking a lot better than solid black. So now we move on to the brown colour, Beige Brown again for the pouches. This is the same colour we used on the sand on the base. We're just going to do a colouring of that, and then afterwards we can make them a little bit lighter and give them a bit more highlights and so on. It's time for the first highlight of the Space Marine armour. We're using Vallego colours Field Blue and Pale Sand. I'm going to mix these together. I didn't really take note of the proportions of each one, but I just mixed them into what I thought would be a decent highlight colour. Once I placed the first stroke of paint on the Space Marine, I immediately thought that maybe it was a bit too bright to be a first highlight on there, but I do know that it will dull down a little bit as it dries. And with the wash going over the top, it will help to blend those two colours together as well, dulling both of them and uniforming them on the armour. So I'm hoping that that will kind of dull down a lot more than it looks right now. Now moving on to painting the upper part of the Space Marine's knee pad and also the shoulder pads. While doing this, take care not to paint on the blue, but if you do, we still have a solid base blue colour, so it's easy enough just to put a bit more on, covering up any mistakes that happen. Next onto the chest eagle, we already have a base coat of the darker Field Blue paint on the chest eagle, so I'm just dabbing a little bit of the lighter colour on there. I'm trying my hardest not to get onto the blue, but if we do, we can just cover it again. And we're just going to put a little bit of colour on so that when we use the wash, it will tie the two colours together and give it a bit more depth as well. Next, we're going to mix together Technical Contrast Medium and Contrast Color Thalassa Blue together. This will give us a bit of a blue wash to get in a bit of the details, bring out some of the detail of the Space Marine armor. I'm only applying this to the blue on the armor, not into the grey. I just wanted to also uniform the blue and make it smoother, a little less blotchy, and give it a bit of a bright color. Next up, we're taking Citadel's Nuln Oil to give the whole model a wash of black. This will get it a little bit grimy. It will tie all the colors together, make them look a little bit more uniform together, and it'll also bring out a lot more detail to the model. Okay, so we're now going to be using Beige Brown to dry brush on the base, and it turns out that I actually used burnt umber for the base coat of the base, the darker brown, so I was completely wrong about that. So dry brushing, just filling up the brush full of paint, wiping off the excess and most of it onto the paper towel, and then dry brushing as in the pictures. Okay, and then we're going to use the same Beige Brown to lighten up the pouches, because I think they were painted Beige Brown last time, but then the Nuln wash brought them down a bit so we could highlight them again with Beige Brown. Okay, so now we're going to be mixing Field Blue Vallego with Pale Sand Vallego. Again, the same color as last time, but because the Nuln Oil has darkened the grey panels on the Space Marine, we can actually go ahead and put the same paint back on and brighten them up a little bit to match the brightness of the blue, which we should be doing next. Now that I've highlighted all the panels of the Space Marine, I'm going to do the same thing with the chest eagle, just kind of grazing over the details and picking up the highest parts of the wings and leaving the darker colour in the recessed areas, so it kind of gives it a bit of a two-tone texture. I think I might have gone a little bit heavy on the highlights for this Space Marine, but I ended up liking it in the end. I just don't really like it right now. But next we have Blood Angel's Contrast Red. We're going to be painting that over the lens, and then any spill we're going to cover up with the blue paint and just get that eye shape back, because I was super messy with this part. Next up, I painted the grenade and the buttons on the Space Marines for I don't know what you call it, but it's there. Painted that green just to add a little bit more splash of a different color and lighten up the model overall. It's just the little parts like that that I find really bring a lot of detail to the Space Marine. Using pale sand, I dry brush the sand on the Space Marine's base to bring out the highest parts of the base, like the rocky texture, and give a bit of paint variation to the bottom of the miniature. We don't want to go too wild with this part because we don't want this to take away from the overall Space Marine, but it pays just to spend that little bit of extra time and detail the base with a bit of dry brushing texture. Using a black plain acrylic paint, I paint the rim of the Space Marine's base, which tidies up all the previous steps and gives a finished look to the Space Marine. If you like, you could probably just leave the miniature like this. It'll be tabletop ready, but I'm going to do a few more things just to spice it up a bit and give it a little bit more detail in the next few steps. So here is the Space Marine now, how it stands with the base painted, all the base coats on and shading. I feel like we could probably even stay like this and just go straight to the tabletop, but we're going to do a few more things to spice it up a bit now. Taking the original colour of field blue and pale sand from Vallego, I'm just giving a final top coat of highlight. I'm also using a little bit more pale sand to give it a bit of a brighter look on the highlights, on the grey especially. I'm just kind of dabbing it in where I think the light will hit. I'm probably doing this 100% wrong, but just go with your gut and do it where you think it looks best, and don't worry too much about being realistic. This is, after all, 40k. Especially on the hands, giving the hands a little bit of detailing as well, just to bring out those fingers and knuckles. On the top parts of the grey armour, especially above the knee pad there, that little strip of, I guess, shielding around it. And then next I will do the chest eagle, just mainly concentrating on the skull in the middle and just a few dabs at the highest parts of the wings, just to bring out a variety of colours and really make that part stand out as well. Now taking the Vallego Ultramarine Blue colour from the start with a little bit of pale sand added in, just a tiny little bit. We're doing the same thing on the blue armor panels. Now I did also notice that the color difference is really different here. It does dull down a tiny bit, but not much, so I probably should have put a bit more of the blue in to match the colors, but I ended up liking how it looks, so I guess that is a plus. Concentrating on the raised bits of the blue armor, like the belt buckle around the eagle to make the eagle stand out, and then also especially a bit on the shoulder pads on the side, on the cladding part. Highlighting all these will really make the model pop a lot more than it did before without them. And same thing on the back of the Space Marine's backpack, just highlighting the edges of the detailing and a little bit on the middle part. We're a little bit out of focus here, but just wherever I think the sun, or I guess the light, would hit the top of the Space Marine's armor, on the little jetpack side parts, on the back of the backpack too, on the very top, a bit more on the head, on the top of the head, and just anywhere you feel it kind of makes sense. I think I may have got a little bit too heavy with these bits of highlighting, but it's up to you and your own individual taste on how far you want to take it to make the Space Marine look your own style. Or if you even want to do it at all and you just want to go straight to battle before this step, it's entirely your choice and it's your army. So let's finish up this and I'll show you guys what the finishing product looks like. So here is the finished Storm Wardens Space Marine. If you made it this far through the video, thank you very much for watching. And if you would like to see another video like this, let me know down below in the comment section which chapter I should paint next, and subscribe to see more videos like this. And as always, recommendations and criticism are always welcome. Anyway guys, here's a few photos of the miniature too, and of my cat. Anyway guys, stay safe, peace out, and I'll catch you in the next video.